All right, so we move on to the Bizarro responses to COVID. So I didn't really know what to do with this section. I just found a bunch of stuff that's some weirdo response, and I thought I'd throw them together because I think people all find them interesting. So the Bizarro responses to COVID are strange, to say the least. We have the first one, which is from the UK. So exclusive, the NHS has drawn up plans to start vaccinating 12-year-olds from the first week schools go back, reports the Telegraph. Health officials have said children would not need parental consent to be jabbed under the programme of vaccinations in schools. So this is not a law yet, but the Telegraph has got a hold of documents that prove that they're planning to do this within the coming days, that if your child is of 12 and up and is going back to school, in the schools they will have vaccination centres, and the child will not have to have parental consent to do this. Sorry, the school will not have to have parental consent. The child can't give consent because children can't consent.
Isn't this one of the things where, I covered it on the podcast previously, where one of the people involved with the vaccine rollout or whatever admitted that they don't actually have enough evidence to rationalise vaccinating children yet, and that they're actually waiting for the evidence after the fact of announcing this.
Yeah, that is something our establishment has said. Again, I'm going to make this clear for no other purpose than for YouTube. It's not anti-vax, but very suspicious of the interaction around kids again, especially when looking at the death rates. So let's go to the full article. NHS trusts were told on Wednesday to prepare for possible rollout of a 12 to 15-year-old healthy child vaccination program beginning September 6th. So the previous argument for giving it to 16-year-olds was if they're an unhealthy child, if they're an obese 16-year-old or have respiratory problems, yeah, this is going to be worth the potential risk.
Imagine if they were asthmatic as well, might be worthwhile.
For 12-year-olds who are already healthy, that's what they are planning to expand this towards from September 6th. Emails seen by the newspaper sent to NHS England's regional offices say trusts must have plans ready by 4 p.m. on Friday, so tomorrow, 4 p.m. The timetable with the first jabs administered September 6th. No, I got that wrong. Not this Friday, but the coming Friday. So with the first jabs administered in less than 2 weeks' time, it has been drawn up despite the government's advisors having so far not recommended such a rollout, as you mentioned. The Department of Health on Wednesday night insisted a decision to roll out jabs has not been undertaken until now. The government vaccine advisors said there had been insufficient data to support such a rollout, but further research on safety of jabs in this age group is about to be published, which will feed into the review of the evidence. So the argument from the government being, we're doing a review of 12-year-olds to 15-year-olds, and the evidence will come out, and then we'll be doing it. And they're preempting all of this by planning to already just do it.
Yeah, so what happens to follow the science?
Well, I can see a very charitable argument of we're going to preempt the research, so then if it does come back green light, we just, we run ahead. And if it is red light, then we don't do it. Do I trust them? Make your own decision on that, can't you? So vaccines are currently being offered to those aged 16 and 17. People in this group are only being offered one dose, with JCVI yet to make a decision on whether or not a second jab should be given. The reason for this, the caution is linked to concerns over a rare side effect called myocarditis, a type of heart inflammation, which is more likely to be triggered by a second dose.
I remember a time when we would get a strike on YouTube for mentioning this, and now it's mainstream press.
Don't shoot me, Commissar. Not my opinion. JCVI, the advisory body to the British government. Our local health authority, as the guidelines state, for example. So that's the situation, that the advising body is saying, nah, but the government is just planning ahead anyway. And again, we have to wonder why from 12 to 15. I mean, already kind of getting weird at 20 with the death rates, let's say, the risk versus reward, and then going down to 12. What is the death rate of 12-year-olds from COVID?
I don't know.
Is it even measurable?
I would imagine it's quite low. I know that I think it's under 70s in 2020. I think it was something like 0.0002% of the population died.
Sorry, under 7.
Under 70.
Under 70, right, yeah. So the caution is linked to concerns over rare side effects, as I mentioned. In July, JVCI said that the minimal health benefits of offering universal COVID-19 vaccination to children do not outweigh the potential risks. So that's the one you mentioned. They literally said, we don't have the evidence to show that it doesn't outweigh the risks, and they went ahead anyway. Now we're going to go ahead anyway with 12-year-olds. Just over 2 weeks later, Professor Jonathan Van Tam, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, said it was more likely rather than less likely that the rollout among 12 to 15-year-olds would be expanded. The emails asked Trust to provide details by 4 p.m. on Friday and how they can vaccinate at least 75% of children aged 12 to 15 by November 1st. I mean, I don't know what is more scary than them being like, yeah, we're just going to do it to 12-year-olds. No parental consent needed. as if the children can consent.
And there's actually no evidence to support them doing so. So it's an entirely ideological act, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and this comes from someone who doesn't have major concerns about the vaccine itself. I'm sure there is an incident rate, but I'm not convinced it's so high to say that it's terrible. But I have to wonder about the risk-reward on different age groups, because when you're 70, risk-reward, totally worth it.
Yeah.
Risk-reward when you're 12...
Yeah, I think that they have a very, very low chance of actually dying of COVID.
So a lot of conservatives have been quite rightly, I think, weirded out by this in the extreme. So let's go to the next one. So this is Talk Radio talking about this. They had a guest on who said, why are they doing this? Why do these children need this? It's a good question, because we can just look at the death graph, can't we? So let's go to the next one. So the death graph on here showing different age groups. This is one we pointed out a lot of times. As you can see there, if you're 80 plus, it's near, 8%, 9% chance of death. 70s, about 5% chance of death, and exponentially lower and lower by the decades of age. And by the time you're 20, it's barely visible. I can see some blue pixels there on the graph. From
Your eyes must be better than mine, because I can't even see anything.
From 19 below, I can't see any blue pixels. So I can't tell you what the risk is because it's not visible on the bar graph showing risk. Literally, I can't see any pixels at all in that bar graph from Imperial College London about the death rate per age group.
And this is a kind of a bit of a tedious data analysis point, but the massive difference between those age groups of the 80 plus, where it's nearly 8%, which is actually quite massive, really, and then you go down to basically 0. That's a pretty good kind of spectrum of results there, where you can kind of say, okay, this seems relatively reliable because you've got the full kind of range of extremes there.
Yeah, but there's also, we're looking at the death rates because, of course, the vaccine doesn't stop you from spreading it, as the health authorities have informed us. I mean, as Dr. Fauci will inform you, that you can still spread it even though you've got the vaccine. So then I have to ask, well, what is the point then for the 12-year-olds? If the risk of death is not visible on a bar graph about risk of death.
I think the argument is that there's a negligible, although this is debated, of course, a negligible chance that it prevents you from passing on to other people. Although I've seen different studies say different things, and some that say it does the opposite. Yeah,
we have to say that the international standard is that it doesn't stop you from carrying it on, because that is what our Lord and Masters at YouTube have to say. Okay, so
I am sorry for.
I don't think we can have nuance. I think nuance is a haram.
Okay, I am sorry for my nuance. Yeah. I will repent my sins.
So let's go to the next one, just to show the numbers here for the UK as well. So we go to the number of people who have got the doses. So first dose in the UK, number of people who have got the dose in the UK. First one being 87.9% of the British public have had their first dose. 77.4% of the British public having their second dose. So 77% of the public being vaccinated.
I could have sworn it was already at something like 90% for all adults, wasn't it?
For the people at risk, it's all at 5% up. I mean, especially for those at high risk, the elderly.
Yeah, I could have sworn I saw on the BBC not only the other day that it was nearly 90%, like it was 89 point
it's not
something
good enough.
or other.
Needs to be 100%. I mean, again, the question keeps getting asked, well, where is the herd immunity point? And
I think we've probably crossed it, haven't we? We were told that it's around 75%, 70%, something like that.
Yeah, according to the textbooks before the change. Since the change, no one has any idea what herd immunity percentage is. Anyway, so to go to the next one, I thought we'd just talk about some government-funded misinformation as well, particularly YouTube-sponsored as well. So this is something I was just looking around on YouTube before we started, and I got recommended this video, and as you can see, YouTube International Spotlight. These are the videos there showing to people on the front page. Thanks, Susan. This is her fault. I've talked about that before. So this is a video that showed up, and it's just a guy spreading the misinformation that if you get the vaccine, you can't pass it on to people. He's suggesting that the reason you should get the vaccine whilst young and healthy is so you don't pass it on to grandma and whatnot. But everyone says that the vaccine doesn't stop that. So let's play this clip.
What's in it for me? I'm young and healthy. Even if I catch COVID-19, it won't affect me. I think this is a bit of a misconception. We have to consider not only ourselves, but everyone around us. Think about the people that have got a COVID infection that don't show any symptoms. If that was you, you could be carrying it around, spreading it to your parents, to your grandparents, to your friends, and the people more vulnerable in the community. Working in the hospital, I saw not only older people being affected by COVID infections, but also young people too, getting really breathless, getting long COVID, and adversely affecting their lives.
So, I mean, to talk about mystical misinformation for a minute, that's YouTube promoting it.
Yeah, and he's a doctor as well, so surely he should know better, right? He should be the one looking at the primary data, I have.
What's funny, though, is he doesn't explicitly state it, of course. He doesn't say, if you get the vaccine, you won't give it. But he says, in response to, why should I get it? Oh, we have to think about other people getting it from you. It's obviously a clear implication that is just false. I mean, just wrong. I don't know what else to say. The idea that a lot of people are getting banned for medical misinformation, and yet YouTube promotes medical misinformation, I thought it's worth pointing out. He could have, of course, turned around and be like, well, yeah, there's a chance young people can die, and then make that argument. But he didn't. He made a false argument instead. Anyway, but I guess seeing as Scotland, as we've had this before, if 4-year-olds can change their gender at school without parental consent, yeah, why not? Let's go all the way down to 4 for COVID jabs without parental consent.
Scotland's really gone off the deep end recently, hasn't it? I mean, it's already bad to begin with, but I don't know, since they've been granted more powers throughout this pandemic, they've really been going nuts.
Whenever the SNP get power, they go nuts on anything. Anyway, so let's go to the next one. So, of course, it's not just the UK that has some weird responses. New South Wales residents who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 will be given new freedoms. Oh, wonderful. What freedoms are they getting given? Residents of hotspots can leave their home for 1 hour of recreation on top of their exercise hour. If you get vaccinated, you can get an extra hour of exercise if you live in New South Wales.
Government allocated recreation hour.
Yeah.
Oh, so charitable.
I love how you're probably going to get stopped by the police, the authoritarian Aussie police, and have to produce a vaccine passport or some evidence to get that extra hour. Like it's a parking ticket. You know how you'd be like, no, I've got another hour. Don't give me the ticket.
I don't understand why Australians are actually concerned about the communist Chinese from taking over, because that it can only be better than this, surely.
Things can only get better. So we're going to Kate
I'm not
Brown
being serious, by the way.
in Oregon. So this lady I have a personal axe to grind with, because she's the one who made the call. Remember when, Portland's courthouse was under attack? And the local officers at Portland, who, Jesus Christ, these lads are heroes, in my view. The amount of work they must have gone through.
Yeah, I feel very sorry for the Portland police.
Yeah, of all the people who have been through hell and been completely left out there. They were the ones protecting the courthouse from IEDs, people trying to storm it, set fire to it. I mean, it's a skyscraper, remember? It's not just some one-story building. It's a skyscraper.
And there are actually people in it as well, aren't there?
Yeah, they would have killed hundreds of people. Anyway, so they were desperately trying to protect it. They called up the state representatives and said, can you send state troopers to help us? You know, the state police of the state. And she said no. She was the one who said no. She blocked it. So
What's wrong with her?
That's why Donald Trump's stormtroopers had to turn up. The federal officers from the Mexican border, because they refused to send in state officers. They had to call in federal officers to then protect a courthouse because, it's federal property, not our problem. Clearly just an endorsement of the riots.
Anyway. In a just country, she would be in prison right now.
Yeah, sorry, I have a personal axe to grab with this lady.
Yeah,
anyway, getting away from that.
You were way too charitable on her.
B-word. Anyway, so she has decided that there must be an outdoor masking mandate for everyone in the state, regardless of their vaccination status, because you can still pass it on if you're vaccinated. Homeless people are exempt. Yeah, of course they are, because they don't care
Homeless
about
privilege.
your authority.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you should just start declaring yourself homeless if you get caught outside. I guess. But also an outdoor masking mandate. So this is another thing which is just absurd. How do we on earth do social media platforms have standards on medical misinformation around masks when multiple countries on earth, multiple states can't agree on this? I mean, you're outdoors and you still have to wear a mask even if there's no one around.
I mean, we don't even have masks indoors anymore. You can go. I haven't worn a mask since the day that they allowed us not to. So.
But also the point there being that if you're in a woods and there's no one around, can someone still catch COVID? Apparently, yes. And therefore, you need to wear a mask.
If you're in a forest and no one's around to see, you can still pass on COVID.
Still pass on COVID, folks. Good God. Anyway, so I thought we'd go on to Pelosi, just a clip from there to remember, saying that we can't require someone to be vaccinated. It's a matter of personal privacy as to who or who isn't vaccinated. Just keep that in mind in the coming months.
Was that when Trump was president by any chance?
Probably, yeah. I love that as well, because let's go to the next one, because American leftists are just a joke. You can see this chat. There's loads of these, but this is just one chat. Just some verified check mark. COVID approves the Trump vaccine. Good luck, MAGA. And then Biden becomes president. Bring on the vaccine mandates.
I don't even understand why they're calling it the Trump vaccine either. It's not like he was in a lab somewhere developing it.
He's the one doing it. He's putting in his hair.
He's just such a talented guy, businessman, president, apparently epidemiologist.
So we go to the next one. I mean, this is the other thing. Like, Trump has been entirely consistent. Like, he's always been saying, yeah, come on, vaccine's good, go get it, and I'll let you know if it's bad. And the response from leftists, I mean, you've seen the footage of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris saying, I don't trust the Trump vaccine. And then they got into office and they were like, you've got to take it, folks. mean,
It's so
pathetic.
performative, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the Republicans have been consistent on this, specifically Trump. So glory to him for being a consistent actor, whereas the Democrats on camera being inconsistent actors. Also in France, I thought we'd end up with a little bit of a cheery message. They've had a nice response to the vaccine mandates. This is beautiful. In France, citizens boycott vaccine passports by dining in the streets directly in front of the bars and restaurants enforcing them. So in France, they introduced the vaccine passport system. You have to have on your phone the app and then prove you have the vaccine. And the police, the gendarmes, will come around and literally check your phone for papers, please, if you are daring to eat outside in a restaurant. So the response from the French public is to just have picnics outside of the restaurants in protest.
Extinction Rebellion, take notes. This is how you protest properly.
Yeah. Not harming anyone, making their point, very loud, and also doing the right thing here, which is shaming the businesses and shaming the government, and also pointing out that the laws only work if you comply with them. Which is a great point. Just the last thing to mention on here, which is also in France, something to keep in mind about vaccine mandates. Let's go to the next one. This is France has already have space for 8 booster shots in their passport system. As you can see there, dose 1 to 8. Yeah.
So it's going to be perpetual boosters from now on, apparently.
Yeah, up until, I don't know, 20 million, whatever year it gets to, in which COVID is eliminated. Yeah. Anyway, that's some of the ridiculous responses. I thought we'd end that there. Thank you for watching this clip from the podcast The Lotus Eaters. If you want more from us, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to get access to all the premium content that we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff there. So we've been doing this for quite some time, so we've got a huge library of content in various different categories. Now, some of my favourites have been the book clubs. I'm personally a big fan of these because it means we get to read good books and important books, extract the useful information out of them, such as with this Roger Scruton's Where We Are, which is a very interesting conservative take on the current culture wars in the state of Britain at the moment. So we go through and explore the meaningful concepts. And here's one that you and Bo did with Frank Dicotta's Mao's Great Famine. It's absolutely brilliant and harrowing to read. And so when all the comments on this happened to be, well, this was vile, we knew we'd done a good job with it. And we also have many other premium series like the Contemplations, where Hugo and Josh just go through and find something very interesting to talk about, such as this one talks about the idea of political representation and does it work, or is it a bit of a myth? And of course, we have the history content, which probably my personal favourite. In this particular one, myself and Bo talked about the achievements of Frankish warlord Charles Martel. Do you know what he's famous for, Callum?
Stopping the Muslims at Tours.
That's right. And we also do a bunch of premium videos and interviews and things like this. So in this one, we happen to have an interview with Michael Malice, who's a very, very charming guest, and I very much enjoyed this one. And we also do a bunch of premium podcasts about stuff that perhaps isn't appropriate for YouTube or various other platforms like that because of, some things outside of their editorial bounds.
So if you'd like to get access to all that premium content, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe for as low as £5 a month. Thank you.